Basra. We had very little advance notice. He then personally went down to Basra, and the Iraqi Army that was down there was surrounded. So we got a map showing a little red dot of the Iraqi Army and a sea of blue, which was the militia forces. So the army couldn't resupply. It looked like the population was supporting the militias, not the army. The prime minister is in a palace getting shelled, and he's surrounded. It was a really dire situation. And I talked to Ryan Crocker that night, and he said, I saw this in Lebanon. We could lose the entire Iraqi army. This could be the collapse of the state. The next morning, I walked into the Oval Office, and I've been up much of the night, and all the papers, I remember in the vestibule of the Oval Office, were of Iraq, smoke over the green zone because the green zone was getting rocketed. It was like Iraq on the brink of disaster once again. And our overall judgment at the time, the best assessment I could give was, Basra is a city of about 7 million people. This could turn either way. It's not necessarily going to turn south, but we're really going to have to help Maliki get out of this. And I know David Petraeus was already starting that process. But it was very, very dire. I walked into the Oval Office that morning. The first thing President Bush said before I could open my mouth was, "Don't tell me this is a bad thing." He said, "This guy Maliki, for years now, has been saying, I'm going to take these guys on." And nobody believed him. And now he's taking them on. And people are saying he's not doing it the right way. And he said, "Don't tell me this is a bad thing. And we just now got to help him succeed." And President Bush, I remember, made a public comment that day where he said, "This is a defining moment for Iraq." And that was ridiculed at the time because I think Nancy Pelosi and others were saying, this is, this is ridiculous. How could the president say this is a defining moment? This is like the end of Iraq. It turned out to be a defining moment for Iraq, for Maliki and for Iraq. But for Iraq, mainly because the Iraqi army at the time had been kind of locally grown and locally based. In that operation, you had divisions worth of force coming from Anbar province all around the country, going to Basra and fighting, staying together, and then winning. And what was interesting was the population turned on the side of the Iraqi army. We did send Navy SEALs down there. We did do things to help them, but we didn't go down there in a heavy saturation type way. But the population turned in favor of Maliki, which he said would happen, but it was hard to see it, but he said it would happen. Fast forward to local elections in January 2009, he won the elections in Basra and Sadr City. So it's a sense of Maliki understands the Iraqis in some ways much better than we can. But Basra was a real turning point.